Hey everyone, welcome to the cabin. My name's Alec Britz, and today we're going to be talking about the Cranborne Audio 500 R8. I'm going to show you all the features of the unit, and most importantly, how it sounds. Full disclosure, Cranborne Audio have sent this unit through, but that will not affect the review in any way. Big thanks as always to Studio Care for making these videos a possibility. Let's jump right in. Starting with the 500 series rack, it accepts 8 1U500 series slots. However, if you don't have all the slots populated, Cranborne Audio have got you covered. There are silver toggle switches over here, and if you toggle them, then that will allow you to connect any line level inputs to the back. So if you have any external microphone preamplifiers and you still want to use the A to D conversion of the unit, that's very easily done. On the mixer section, it all begins with our mix level and our pan controls. Above that, we have our source select. We have cast input, analog input, and USB input. Next to that, we have our linking function. This allows you to be able to chain units together without having to do any additional patching. This mixer section is dual purpose. In tracking, it provides you with zero latency monitoring, and in mixing, it reacts just like a good analog summing mixer should do. So you have 8 inputs, you can pan them, you can control the levels that you would like, and by accessing the USB input, it shows up on your DAW as slots 1 through 8. To be able to record the output of the summing mixer, that comes up on inputs 9 and 10. Moving on from that, we have our signature Cranborne Audio power switch, which requires a long press to turn off. We have 2 stereo meters, you have your speaker select, A and B, you have a mono button, a mute button, a dim, and a talkback function. On the talkback, phantom power is always active, and you can control the level of it by using the talkback level. Underneath that, we have our monitoring section. This is divided into 2 different parts. The first is our aux level, which can be blended between the mix from the mixer or the DAW. We have a DAW2 input as well, which allows you to be able to add anything in from the DAW2 input on the rear. Underneath that, we have our second headphone monitor controller. This allows you again to be able to blend between the mix and what's coming out of the DAW or DAW2 input. The monitor level on this side correlates directly with the speaker level. So as you turn the big knob, your headphone volume goes up as well as the speaker volume. Usually when talking about rack ears, there is not very much to say. However, once again, the people at Cranborne Audio have kind of thought of everything here. Because this box has the ability to be mobile and to have many different use cases, the rack ears can be recessed, or, as you're seeing right now, the rack ears can be converted into a very handy carrying handle. On the rear of the 500 R8, it all begins with our module inputs. We have XLR input, TRS insert, and module direct outputs also on XLR. Underneath that, we have our cast inputs A through D. Cranborne Audio's devices all have cast outputs, which means that you can use either their N22, their N22H headphone box, or the Camden EC2 or EC1s. This allows you to be able to run the devices without being in the same room as them, or in the case of the N22H, you can use that as your main monitoring box as well as an input box without having to spend loads of money on cabling to build an analog snake. We have our ADAT section, in 1 and 2, out 1 and 2. We have SPDIF in and out, word clock in and out, so this can be used as a master clock. We have our clock settings on dip switches. We have MIDI in and out, our USB connectivity, a locking power supply, then a cast link system to be able to connect us to the 500 ADAT. We have our talkback input. We then have our DAW2 input. We have our speaker outputs A and B. A is on XLR, B is on TRS. We then have our mix output. This is the mix output of the summing mixer. Finally, we have our aux output left and right.
Loving with a broken heart is harder than I ever thought it'd be. Learning that love is more than what I give and what you take from me. I don't wanna walk out, but I can see that this is breaking you. Loving you with the broken heart is more than I can put you through. It's hardest to change when the comfort of the past holds you in its warm embrace. We've become become estranged, lost the will to fight. I don't want to draw this out, losing you tonight. Walls are closing in, and I cannot fake this anymore. We try to talk it out, trying to tell you how I felt.
So, the Cranborne Audio 500 R8. When I reviewed the Cranborne Audio EC2, I said that the designers of that unit must have had to solve a lot of problems. There were small inclusions in that unit that didn't need to be there, but made your life a lot easier. When I started using this device and describing it to people, it sounded like I was talking to a fellow sound engineer in a bar. I was like, you know what would be amazing? I tell you, if you could have an interface that had like 500 series slots, right? Hear me out here, hear me out. And then it had like a summing mixer, so you could use those slots to like mix anything you want. This is how I sound in a bar, by the way. And then you can also have like a full monitor controller, but then that mixer on the bottom can be like zero latency kind of inclusion, so that way you never have to deal with any of the software problems that you might arise with any kind of digital interface. That's exactly what this unit is. It's all of those things and more. When I looked around the back of it for the first time, I just realized there's this thought of growth, or like, as the person who buys this grows, this system can stick with them and it's not going to ring fence them into being locked to this one paradigm of workflow. Cranborne Audio make a 500 ADAT version of this as well, which means that you could have a fully fledged 16-channel tracking and a fully fledged 16-channel mixing rig with a 16-channel analog summing mixer built in, with all of your favorite sonic signatures from all of your favorite 500 series units. Small things that kind of highlight the ethos behind this a little bit more is things like having MIDI in and out, or the fact that you can use this and make it fully mobile. If you take it out the rack, it's still just a 500 series rack, so you can go from your home studio or from your production room with your favorite units and use this in a bigger recording studio just as you would any other 500 series rack. One of the other things that was quite surprising about this was the fact that there's no software. There is firmware to update on the unit, but there is no dedicated app or program on your computer that makes the unit operate appropriately. They've taken all of that functionality and put it into that little mixer on the bottom, so you can select your source, you can turn it into a summing mixer, you can do all those things without having to touch a mouse. This kind of highlighted to me that there's not very many levels or layers between me being creative versus me being able to capture that creativity. Everything is really instant, and most importantly, you can just use your hands and get it going. There are a couple things that I would like to change on this unit, if at all possible, and if there is any space on the unit to change this. The first is on the mixed level controls. These are continuously variable, which means there is no indent at the unity point. If it was possible to have an indent, or even better, to make them push or pull buttons so that when they are pushed or pulled, they automatically set to unity, which means that if I'm flicking between recording and tracking, my recording levels can be set, and when I press them in, then my mixing levels to unity are automatically restored. The other thing that I would like to see included, if at all possible, is a stereo mix bus insert. Now, if you take the mix outputs of the device, run that into your mastering chain, and then into an external set of converters, that will work absolutely fine. However, if the stereo insert could be before the A to D stage on channels 9 and 10 of the unit, then I could put in my entire mastering chain into the stereo insert, and then it's a fully one-stop shop, perfectly rigged up version of how I like to work in the studio. Overall, the build quality is outstanding. The sonic signature of the unit is great. I haven't had any issues at all with performance. There's no clicking or popping. it all just works the way it's supposed to. The guys at Cranborne have knocked this one out the park. I'm really excited for any future products that they come out with, because hopefully they're going to solve a few more of my problems that I face here in the studio on a daily basis. If you want to know more about the sound of the microphone preamplifiers, check out my Cranborne EC2 video that I did. They're the same mic pre's. I hope you enjoyed the song on that one. I had a great time making it. Thank you so very much for watching. Most importantly, I hope you're all looking after yourselves and you're being kind. I'll see you soon.